Now, it is often argued that there is nothing like a beautifully crafted poem to rouse the masses and communicate an intensity of politically charged emotion. Well, the writer, performance poet and lawyer D.K. Chukwumerije knows this better than most. He uses political poetry to enable discussions on the inequities of Nigerian society, to challenge institutionally enforced injustices, and to communicate pain and struggle. And now, ahead of the 2023 presidential election, he's attempting to use his performance poetry and his writings to influence the progress of Nigeria's intemperate politics, imagining a new way for this country after decades of spectacular carnage. Take a listen.
Broken road does not understand Igbo. It will not maim the Fulani and let the rest of us go. The accident it will cause will take our lives. For when a vehicle somersaults, it breaks our bones.
So, you can speak Nupe till morning comes. You will not build libraries in our public schools. And when a woman, a young woman, lies dying in childbirth, your fluency in Ijo, it will not save her life.
For Christian or Muslim, it makes no difference. When you're being driven around in an ambulance from hospital to hospital in search of oxygen, northerner or southerner, you'll just die suffocating.
If you are tired of it all, then strike it at its roots. If you are tired of needing a letter from a senator to get that job, if you are tired of seeing your hustle frustrated by public policies, if you are tired of insecurity, then fix the politics.
Until they are there in public office, men and women with a heart for public service. No tribe, no tongue, just a commitment to build a functional nation that fills us all with pride.
Until they are in the highest office, men and women with the heart of selfless service. No region, no religion, just commitment to nation.
That's just a snippet there of D.K. Chukwumerije's poetic writing, his words, a voice that resonates passionately with the youth of Nigeria. And the writer, performance poet and lawyer, D.K. Chukwumerije, is here with me in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. Really powerful stuff there. Tell us first of all about that poetic writing we just heard and why you decided to do it.
The poem is titled Fix the Politics. It's a poem that speaks to what I believe is the heart of the issue, that as Nigerians we need to recognize that there is a direct relationship between our condition of living and the politics. If the roads are bad, it's not the devil. If there are no drugs in the hospital, it's not just Nigeria is a horrible country. There is an objective reason for it, and that is the quality of governance. That is the quality of people in office. You need to be able to tie the bad roads, tie the broken hospitals, tie the empty libraries, tie these things to the type of people you have in office. And every 4 years, you have an opportunity to make your life better, not just to elect people, to make your life better. And you need to recognize that that vote is your passport to a better life. And that poem is simply trying to direct the attention of people to the fact that politics is primary, it is fundamental.
Well, I have to say I felt very moved by it. It's a very powerful poem. And of course your poems, many of them political, have become very successful. I mean, turning you into something of an internet and real life sensation. How does that feel?
For me personally, it doesn't feel anything. I'm not, I don't believe my own hype, so to speak. I'm just happy that I have found a way of communicating on issues that are passionate. I'm
So
passionate
focus
about.
on the message,
I'm
not,
very
not
much
the
focused
message.
on the message.
Right.
you know.
And it's clear from that poem we heard and from numerous others that you believe that the youth of this country hold the potential power to create political change in Nigeria.
It's a young country. There is no reason why a country as young as ours should have a leadership that does not reflect that demographic. There's no reason. The only reason is that those who have the numbers don't vote. And it's important that we realize that the power is in our hands as citizens. It's not in the hands of politicians. Politicians are puppets. It's the people behind the throne who puts the politician in power is what matters. And you have the capacity to put the politician in power because you have the numbers. You simply need to, effect that power, use that power consciously, intentionally. And it's going to happen. Nigeria is only getting younger. It's just a question of time. The scale is tipping. And we will see it in our lifetime.
So after all the emotive protests, I remember talking with you during the NSAS protests and all the emotive protests of those that NSAS movement. Is this now the pragmatic phase of things?
This is where the rubber meets the road. There is no protest that can save you from bad governance. There's no protest that can save you from people that you have elected into office to govern you. It's like getting into a car with a driver who doesn't know how to drive. You are at the mercy of that driver. If you want to save your life, you change the driver. There's no point sitting at the back screaming at the driver, carrying placards.
Because he just doesn't know how to drive.
He doesn't know how to drive. You need to change the driver. So all that energy, all that anger, all that frustration, we have to learn to channel it into the democratic process. In 2023, in 2027, in 2031, we'll keep hitting it until we tilt the country in the direction it needs to go.
And do you feel that message is getting through?
Yes, you can see the surge in registration by young people. It tells you that there is an awakening. It's happening, that young people are beginning to realize that this is a pathway we have not quite fully explored. I always tell people that one of the reasons why I have hope in Nigeria is you look at the number of people voting. When you have 30% of the electorate voting, it gives you hope. You now know that there is 60% who doesn't quite agree with what this 30% are doing. And that is a sleeping electorate that is now beginning to awaken. And there is nobody that has enough money to buy all 200 million of us. So the more people are coming out to vote, the easier it is to teleguide the elections from anywhere. And elections begin to reflect popular feelings and popular sentiments, and that is what we want to see.
And is Nigerian politics a fit subject for your kind of poetry? Do you see it as a duty to write about it in a topical way?
Yes, I believe that it's one of the duties of a creative in a society like ours to be the conscience, to sound the gong, to address those issues. It's all right to write about flowers and the sunset and the sunrise and broken hearts. It's fine. But when the world outside your window is burning, when children have no food to eat, when people cannot travel from Abuja to Kaduna without fear of being kidnapped, when things like that are happening outside your window, as a creative, you have a moral responsibility to use your art to address those issues.
I think it was the English poet Percy Shelley who said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Do you agree with that?
I agree. There's a popular saying, give me the songs of a nation, and I care not who writes its laws. Meaning that art is a powerful channel to the heart and the minds of a society. So our creatives have a lot of power, which they need to wield more intentionally. There are very few gateways to the human heart. You have the family, you have the schools, you have religion, and you have art. So when you have art, you're standing on a pulpit, just like a pastor or an imam or a parent or a teacher. You have the same capacity to shape the mind and the heart of society, and you need to use that intentionally. Everybody needs to get on this struggle to make Nigeria a livable country. Everybody needs to get on that struggle.
And specifically with poetry in the political arena? I mean, I'm not talking about other forms of art, but specifically poetry. Can it shake this Nigerian world?
Yes, it can. I use poetry, and over the last 10 years, I have seen.
Well, you become very popular.
You know, I've traveled around the country with poetry. I've been to Maiduguri, Port Harcourt, Kano, Oma, everywhere around the country. I've been speaking poetry that addresses the nation, and I have seen how in every single location it has awakened a consciousness. There's nobody that has sat under that poetry that did not come at the end of the day and said, you know what, your poetry made me rethink. And just, I've seen people who said, look, Nigeria is completely useless. And they listen to a certain perspective, you know, captured in a poem, and they say, you know what, it made me rethink. Because hope is about perspective. It depends on where you're standing and what you're looking at. So if a poet is able to shift your perspective, is able to shift you from hopelessness to hope. And we need hope. Hope is social capital. It may take 25 years to develop our country, but you need hope so that people can wait
to
for
sustain
that.
that, yes.
And that's what our leaders are failing to give us. It's not enough to give us you need to give us hope. The 2023 elections, the results of that election needs to give the young people of Nigeria hope. That may buy us another 25 years on this struggle.
That's a very, very profound. And that brings me to my next question, which is, what do you make of what you're seeing so far as the elections draw near?
I'm excited. The 2023 elections excite me. I'm excited that for once we have a proper 3-horse race. I'm excited with the fact that we have an alternative outside of the mainstream, the stereotype, what we're used to. I'm excited at the number of people that are registering. I'm excited at the energy that I'm seeing in the streets. That is really exciting, you know, and it's one election that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, I mean, what kind of, because a lot of people have talked about some of the things that you've just said, but also this moral, psychological shift that they seem to be seeing, this hope. What kind of impact is that likely to have?
It will have tremendous impact. For me, the 2023 elections is a straight contest between politics that is based on money and buying followership and loyalty, and politics that is based on hope and belief and ideology. And you see on one side where people are self-funding a campaign because they believe, because they want something better. And then you have the traditional way we play politics. And I think it's very important for us to see that we can do politics differently in this country. It will energize every politician who wants to come out and run on the strength of their ideas, their character, their integrity, as opposed to how much money they have in their pocket. And it will also energize the electorate. You know, if they're able to push forward a candidate and see that candidate do well in the ballot box, it gives us all the hope, the belief that if we don't like what we are seeing, we can change things. That is all the human spirit needs, to have hope that I can change my fate, my destiny. I'm not helpless, you know? So seeing that happening makes me very excited.
So I suppose this is the obvious question. Which of the candidates do you think has managed to strike the sort of chord that you'd like to see politicians strike with ordinary Nigerians?
For me, unequivocally, it's Peter Obi. Unequivocally, you know, because of the energy that he's inspired, you know, the energy that has coincided with his rise, whether he's inspired it or not. And for me, it's that wave coming behind him that excites me, to see young people getting interested in politics, self-funding. That's what it means to be a citizen, you know? And I really like that. I think that that is the kind of politics that will lead us to a new Nigeria, where you see politics as a civic duty. You don't need somebody to give you a bag of rice to support the person. You need to be able to say to yourself, I want this type of life for me and my children. I think this person can give me that type of life. Therefore, I will support the person. I would even pay. I would even invest to make sure the person gets there, because you are investing in your future. Rather than seeing politics as something that somebody pays you to do, You see it as something you invest in. That's the mentality that will give birth to a new country. And any politician that inspires that mentality in the electorate has my vote.
So what sense do you get of who supports P2B, bearing in mind that there is no accurate scientific measure as of yet of the popularity of any of the candidates?
Who supports him? I think there are different groups supporting him. There are people like me who simply want a difference. So I cannot vote for a party that has failed woefully in the last 8 years to deliver. I don't think there is no justification for rewarding bad performance with another term. What are we waiting for? What do we want to see? Neither can I vote for the party before that really didn't do much better. So I just want a different alternative. That's the benefit of democracy. Let's keep trying until we get it right. So there are people like me. But then you also have other people who are simply frustrated with the country, with the way the country is, and have expressed this frustration in the most extreme ways, sometimes asking for secession, asking for division. And now with this candidate, they see perhaps with this candidate we can work something out. And you have, those group of people that are supporting him. And you have people that are politicians, practicing politicians, but are disgruntled. Maybe they didn't win in the main parties and are disgruntled and are therefore supporting him. But there's a saying that every big tree, you're going to have all kinds of birds perching in it. So the movement is gathering strength, and all kinds of shades of opinions are all coming under the tree. But I think it's important that we push through. For me, the most important thing about the movement, for me, is that it is waking up that sleeping electorate. And ultimately, systemically, thinking in terms of systemic change, institutional change, the more people you have participating in the democratic process, the harder it is to rig the democratic process. And so I am voting for that trend. I want it to continue, and I'm going to support it by giving it my vote.
Dike Chukwumerije, it's absolutely fascinating, absolutely extraordinary talking with you. Thank you very much indeed. And Dike Chukwumerije is the writer, performance poet, and lawyer.